Hello and welcome. We're going to be talking about the Fire Safety Regulations 2022, which is a new piece of legislation that was introduced within England on January the 23rd, 2023. Following recommendations set out within the Grenfell Tower inquiry, a tragedy in which the world is still reeling, new legislation has now been introduced which will reduce the risk of fire and ultimately keep people safe. Responsibility for fire safety lies with what the law refers to as the responsible person. This is usually the building owner or operator of the building, but may be devolved to a number of positions within the organisation, so it's always best to check your status. There are more onerous responsibilities as the building becomes more complex. In this three-part series, we're going to be breaking this down into 2 or more domestic dwellings, mid-rise domestic dwellings, and high-rise domestic dwellings, the exact measurements of which will be stipulated within the video description below. So let's get started.
In all buildings where there are 2 or more domestic premises, responsible persons will be required to comply with Regulation 9, Fire Safety Instructions. These instructions should be in plain view within the building and must be provided to residents as soon as they move into their accommodation, and must be reissued to all residents on an annual basis, and when any new material changes occur, such as building renovations. These instructions must include the evacuation strategy for the building, instructions on how to report a fire, and instructions on what a resident must do once a fire has occurred.
Included within this is Regulation 10, Fire door information. Responsible persons must now provide all residents with information on the importance of fire doors. This instructions must comprise of keeping fire doors shut, not tampering with any self-closing devices on the fire doors, and how to report any faults or damage with the fire doors.
This information can simply be achieved through letters, notice boards, emails, and resident engagement sessions. If you are a business who have a large portfolio, the government have produced an optional tool to support responsible persons in allowing them to prioritise fire risk assessments for buildings. Though it should be said this tool does not replace the fire risk assessment or external wall survey, and it is not a mandatory requirement. This fire risk assessment prioritisation tool decides which fire risk assessment updates responsible persons should prioritise and what actions are required. Please see a further link to this in the video description below.